Welcome to Jason Sports YouTube page. I'm a regular podcast, Detroit Red Wings podcast on the Jason Sports YouTube page. Let's talk about these Detroit Red Wings because these Detroit Red Wings are playing out of their mind. They've swept this homestand with 3 really good wins. The Montreal Canadiens came in here. They were playing pretty good hockey. Tampa Bay a week ago on that same Saturday that you beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 2-0. A week prior, they beat you 5-1 on their home ice. And then you play the LA Kings. You beat them 4-2. You were down 2-0 at one point. And you're missing guys like Patrick Kane, Tarasenko. There's JT Comfort. You're missing a lot of guys. So look, I wanted a coaching change from October on, right? Even when the season started, I wasn't really happy with Derek McLellan. I didn't think he was the right guy to lead the charge. But you're starting to see this Detroit Red Wings team make strides. And I'm not just saying it from like the little pragmatic approach. They're making strides at every area of the game. Like, look, this is what Jim Costa put. This is perfectly put by him. I had to give him credit because this is a perfectly put tweet. He says, when the Wings hired Todd McLellan on December 26th, they lost to the Leafs the next day. 11-3-1 in the 15 games since. Tonight came back 2-0 to beat the team that fired him. Power play has been the best in the league. Penalty kill has made strides. The weight lifted off Larkin's shoulders. Young players blossoming. I think what we are starting to see with this Detroit Red Wings team is, it helps to have a good coach. It helps to have a coach that, expects more out of you, a coach that will demand more out of you. And the players that I have seen more come from them that I ever seen from Derek McLellan, ever. None of these guys were good under Derek McLellan. I mean, Johansson had some glimpses, but Johansson under Todd McLellan is a totally different animal. He's a good defenseman. And Marco Kasper is starting to hit his strides. It wasn't just a coaching change that was needed. It was a philosophical change that was needed on the Detroit Red Wings bench. And look, I never felt like Derek McLellan was going to be that guy. I never felt like he was going to take the team to the next level. Obviously, a lot of people when Steve Eisman came on, they wanted Jeff Blashill gone. I thought, look, Jeff Blashill wasn't working with a lot of talent, but Derek McLellan, when he came into this team, there's talent on this team. Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider, Patrick Kane, Tarasenko. Like, there's no reason to be falling below expectations like you were. And I look at the way Todd McLellan is managing this Detroit Red Wings team, and it's exactly how I wanted to be. Exactly how I wanted to be. When we talk about Todd McLellan and we talk about that day that they hired him, part of me was saying, look, I don't think he's ever been in a spot where the team can actually progress, because if you look at the way the Kings were when he got hired, they were kind of a team on a teetering slope. They were older, heavy contract team that they were on the last leg of their Stanley Cup window, and even then it was kind of like a thought out process that the Kings were never going to win the Stanley Cup in those years ever. When he went to San Jose, I felt like San Jose was on the last years of their kind of window, and they fell apart. He may had some success, but it wasn't overwhelmingly. The Sharks were kind of this team that always needed to kind of rebuild because they were kind of like teetering on this fraudulent mediocre. He goes to Edmonton. We all know about Edmonton. I think Edmonton is a sleeping giant, obviously with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, but that team still lacks they still lack what they lack. They had no goaltending. Jack Campbell was their goaltender. He's in the Grand Rapids Griffins. They had no defense. I think Evan Bouchard was a young player. They were kind of like teeter-tottering. And, that Edmonton market, they demand a good team, and that team wasn't built to be good. But I feel like with this Red Wings team, Todd McLellan could take him to the next level. What is the next level for the Detroit Red Wings? Well, we'll start with the playoffs. That's number one. But number two, it's looking at this. Look at this. Not only are the Detroit Red Wings 2 points out of the second wild card spot, they're 3 points out of the first wild card spot, and they're 4 points from getting the third in the Atlantic. They're not far behind. And they're playing really, really well. And The thing that's impressing me the most about this Detroit Red Wings team is every night they deal. There's some team there. There's some point in the game where they deal with adversity, and I always want to know, what does a team do when they deal with adversity? Like watching the Tigers, right? If you're a Tigers fan, they can't score at a consistent pace. So they gotta get all their offense, and that's gotta be the guy that's gotta be their adversity strike. Like let's let's close this out with three pitchers in 3 innings. Kind of let's do that. With the Lions, it was the same thing. We had to win with offense because there was injuries. Adversity is gonna strike. And what I felt like with Derek Malone, I didn't feel like he was battling adversity well with the Detroit Red Wings. I felt there was plenty of times he could have built up on something, but he just let it slip. Um, but this is totally different. You come into the night's game against a good LA Kings team. No Kane, no Tarasenko, no JT Comfort. Like you miss three of those guys. Like that's huge. That's huge. And to be frank and honest, I didn't expect them to win tonight. I just thought, with the players that are missing, um, it's tough to, say, yeah, I expect them to win. But Cam Talbot played absolutely phenomenal. Lucas Raymond, Alex DeBrincat played great again. Um, Dylan Larkin's playing at the top of his game, and more so, like guys like Elber Johansson and that goal by Marco Casper. What a goal! I mean, this kid is really flourishing with the Detroit Red Wings, man. And I could sit here all day and name positive things about the Detroit Red Wings because every point along the line, they're getting better and better and better. And it's really cool to watch because I felt like this team had more talent than they shown in the first, 2.5 months of hockey. They're way better than their record indicated. And when I see their record right now, 3 games above 500, 2 points out of the second wild card spot, 3 points out of the first wild card spot, 4 points from becoming the third Atlantic team. It gives me a lot of trust in what this product is doing because it's not just that Todd McLellan and this coach bump. It's that they're actually playing like a team. They're progressing. These young players are getting better under Todd McLellan, and Todd McLellan is giving them a lot of leeway. Like Marco Casper, he's really done a good job under McLennan. It's always Johansson, Edvinsson. I couldn't be more proud of the way that these young players are playing. And look, I thought it was the most important thing when Todd McLellan came into this team. He said he wanted to take the weight off Dylan Larkin's shoulders. I felt like there was not a coach that Dylan Larkin has had that wanted to do that. That takes a real leader to do that. It takes a real leader to take the weight off a guy like Dylan Larkin's shoulders because let's think about it. A lot of people they figure Dylan Larkin, hometown kid, captain. There's a lot expected of him. Well, someone's got to pick up the slack. And thankfully the coach is an accountable coach. I'll go back to what he said um just I think it was a couple weeks ago, but he said, that it was the code. It was one of the plays that he re-challenged, but it was against Columbus. He said that decision was mine. It wasn't anybody else that's on the head coach. I made that decision, and I was on the wrong end of it. And this was another thing. Play effing hockey. You've done it your whole life. It's like this guy. Since he's came here, we're starting to see the tea leaves of what he has been able to do. And I couldn't be more proud of what Todd McLellan's doing because it's not just the coach bump. He's actually an accountable coach for himself. And when you're an accountable coach for yourself, that look, it doesn't mean nothing to the fans. It don't mean nothing to the fans. But to that team, when you're accountable, they'll take accountability. And I felt for the longest time the Detroit Red Wings lacked the accountability. Now they're going to go up against some good teams coming up. They're going to be playing the Oilers, the Flames, the Canucks, and the Kraken all on that Western road trip that they have. Where they're going to start Edmonton on Thursday, Saturday at Calgary, Sunday the Vancouver Canucks, and then they'll play Tuesday at the Kraken at 10 o'clock. This Red Wings team, if they come back winning 2 of those games, maybe even 3 of those games, this team's legit. But I still think they're legit, and I can't wait to see what they do for the rest of the season. Obviously, we got the Four Nations tournament coming up in February, but this Detroit Red Wings team is really hitting their mark with Todd McLellan, and I couldn't be more proud of the decision by Steve Yzerman to relieve Derek Lalonde of his duties and bring bring McLellan in here because McLellan has been a hell of an addition to this at the Red Wings team. Because look, if you kept going with Derek Lalonde, it was gonna fizzle out and catch on fire. But I think that Todd McLellan has ignited the exact switch that you needed for this Detroit Red Wings team. We're going to see you on the Red Alert podcast on Wednesday. We will see you on Wednesday as we talk more Detroit Red Wings hockey on the Red Alert podcast. Me and Cindy will be breaking down that Western road trip, what we've seen from the Detroit Red Wings coming up. And we'll see you in that podcast as we talk more Detroit Red Wings hockey here on Jason Sports and the Red Alert podcast. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.